I just want there to be more news. Well, there is some. The Leafs trade Matt Martin to the New York Islanders in exchange for goaltender Eamon McAdam, because that's how you say his name, I think. And the most important part of the deal, Matt Martin, no salary retained. First of all, just like Polak, Bozak, JVR, and Komarov, hats off to Matt Martin for his time as a Maple Leaf. He wasn't the most offensively talented guy, but that's not why they brought him in, is it? According to hockeyfights.com, if you count the preseason, Matt Martin was in 20 fights as a Leaf. Martin's second fight as a Leaf, third if you count preseason, was against Zdeno Chara. And the next guy was Troy Stecher, but never mind. For the most part, it's just big boys. Tom Wilson, Erica Branson, Nikita Zadorov, Cody McLeod, Steve Ott during the Centennial Classic, Michael McCarron. The list goes on. He also had an incredible fight against Adam McQuaid that ended poorly, but it was a great one. Look, we can talk about the merits of fighting and whether or not it should be in the game, but as long as it is, you gotta be a little nuts to do that and a little bit brave. Lou Lamoriello signed Martin to a $10 million deal 2 years ago to protect the young kids. And by young kids, I mean adult men, but they were still teenagers, some of them. And now the Islanders, who I said in the last video, I don't think are doomed. They got a nice young core. He's there to protect them. And he's got Uncle Leo with him too. So there's a few schools of thought here. One, the Leafs just don't need a player like that. His numbers are terrible. His possession wasn't very good. 8 goals and 13 assists for 21 points spread over 2 seasons. 132 games because he only played 50 last season because at one point Babcock just cut him off. Or there's the, well, now the Leafs lack toughness and they need a guy who will put up his fists every now and then. Look, a lot has been said about the John Tavares signing and about the fact that the Leafs have to re-sign William Nylander and Austin Matthews and Mitch Martin. Most of the cap-related things that have been said about them are a little bit overblown. They gotta trade Nylander! No, they don't! The Leafs have 3 restricted free agents right now: William Nylander, Andreas Johnsson, and Freddie Gauthier. According to Cap Friendly, they have just under $16.2 million to do that. But if I'm not mistaken, that number does not include Nathan Horton's $5.3 million that they can throw on LTIR, which should give them just a hair under $21.5 million. Let's say Willie and Johnsson add up to about 10, which I think might be a little high. They still got a lot of wiggle room this season. Next season, yeah, it tightens. One guy who was locked up next season was Matt Martin. And you gotta go, okay, do we need this player? Well, he makes over $2 million to play on your 4th line. That's not very good. But Steve, Connor Brown makes over $2 million, and he's probably gonna start on the 4th line. Fair point. But I have said before, if you're gonna play on the 4th line, you better be able to do something else. Connor Brown kills penalties and sometimes plays on the power play. Andreas Johnsson came onto the team as a 4th line player, kills penalties. Kasperi Kapanen had a hard time making the Leafs. They sent him down to the AHL, taught him how to be a penalty killer. Now he's a good one. To be a 4th liner in today's NHL, and especially on a team as deep as the Leafs, you gotta be either cheap, versatile, or both. And Matt Martin, noble as he was, wasn't that. And you can even go, but they need an enforcer. Okay, fine, but they can't afford this one. And honestly, everyone's dumping on the Islanders for this. I don't really see the reason. I mean, they had a rough couple days. But the Islanders have $20 million in cap space for next season without going on LTIR. And to say the Leafs didn't retain any salary, that is technically grammatically false. Retaining salary should really be retaining cap hit, because the Islanders are absorbing Martin's full cap hit, $2.5 million this season and next. But what made this trade happen is on July 1st, I think it was, Matt Martin got paid a $1.5 million signing bonus by the Leafs. So they're paying this guy $1.5 million not to play for the team. And his salary dips next season. So even though his cap hit over the next 2 seasons is a combined $5 million, the Islanders are only paying the guy $2.5. And on a team that's probably pretty miserable considering what happened, I think Matt Martin will at least cheer him up. Like, I haven't heard anybody say he's a bad person or even a bad locker room guy. I think he'll be useful for the Islanders. As an Islander, he was usually on pace for 7, 8, 9 goals over an 82-game season, 15, 20 points. He didn't really contribute on Mike Babcock's 4th line because nobody contributed on Mike Babcock's 4th line. Brian Boyle played 27 games with the Leafs, had 0 goals, 5 assists. And speaking of which, Leaf fans, Matt Martin gave you a good memory. That Kapanen double OT winner does not happen without him. So Matt Martin, good luck to you. Let's talk about the other guy, Eamon McAdam. A few people tweeted me, what the hell? They don't need another goalie. And others tweeted, oh, come on, he's just a roster spot throwaway. I actually think you're both kind of wrong. He hasn't played a lot of AHL hockey, but when he has, his numbers are poor. He's 23, almost 24, so he's getting to the point where it's getting difficult to call him a prospect. But you know what? His ECHL numbers are alright. And also, no goalies had good numbers on the Bridgeport Sound Tigers last year. And there's a good chance the Leafs will trade 1 or 2 of McElhaney, Sparks, Pickard, maybe even Keskisquel. So if you trade one or two of those guys, you'll be happy to have an extra goalie, and he's only under contract for one more year. You got a brand new ECHL team in Newfoundland, the Newfoundland Growlers. You want them to look good. Sick jerseys. Honestly, I think the most this guy plays is like as the Marlies backup. The important thing was freeing up cap space, which Dubas did. Continuing the trend of former Islanders, the Carolina Hurricanes signed Calvin DeHaan. Poor Adam Wilde. Actually, if you go and listen to the most recent Pedicle Pizza Steve Dangle podcast, it's almost 3 hours long, Adam finds out that DeHaan signed with the Hurricanes in real time, and he's so sad. But dude, check this. Dougie Hamilton, Jacob Slavin, Justin Falk, Calvin DeHaan, Brett Pesce, Hayden Fleury, Trevor Van Riemsdyk. TVR still needs a deal, but that group doesn't even include a guy like Jake Bean. The Hurricanes defense is stacked. And everyone's like, oh, they gotta trade Justin Falk now. And I'm like, do they? Sure, you could get rid of him for something, bring in TVR, and he would be cheaper. But Falk, 2 years left at 4.8? Decent. Which I guess is why he's so valuable, and maybe you do look at trading him. For William Nylander straight up. That's not happening, by the way. Stop it. John, sign here. Only if you keep the young core together. I promise. I will sign. Alright, thanks. Get rid of them. Get rid of them all. Relax. But Calvin Haan, 4.55 for 4 years. Not bad for the Carp kid. The kid from Carp. He's 27, so you're not worried about age. He only played 33 games last year, so that's concerning. But 82 the season before that, in a season where he got 5 goals and 20 assists for 25 points. He's a decent defender. He can move the puck, and that is Carolina's strength. Been talking about this on the podcast. Alright, what is this team? And then that team goes out and adds to their strength, and people go, what about addressing your weakness? True, you should do that, but when you add to your strength, I think it only increases your identity and makes your strength more special and even harder to match. I mean, what Carolina needs is a good goalie. And they went out and got Peter Mrazek. Did I mention I was at the game where Montreal beat Detroit 10-1? When you bring in an asset, when you add an asset like Carolina just did, you can either keep that asset and be like, hooray, we added, or you can trade a pre-existing asset, like Justin Falk, for example, and get something else. I see no downside for Carolina in this side. And one last thing, because I forgot to mention it, the Leafs re-signed Justin Holl, 2 years, basically league minimum, $675. Everyone's talking about, hey, $675 for a regular, everyday NHL player. Are you sure about that? Look, Dubas loves him, and I'm sure that's why he got done so quickly and why it was 2 years and why it was a good number. But for him to make this team, especially as a regular, for him to make the team at all, he's going to have to fight and claw for it. He can move the puck and rush the puck, and that's something that the Leafs could use. But he's a big boy, and Babcock's going to want him to move the other big boys in the NHL and take all those hard knocks and kill penalties and be a good player. It's hard to be a good player. But on a 2-year deal, especially that cheap, Justin Holl is worth the risk. All right, let me do one last Twitter check before I wrap this up. All right, Leafs PR, nothing. Has Karlsson been traded? No. Well, I know something's going to happen the second I upload this, so why don't I just hurry it up? That is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Thank you so much for watching this season. I just flicked this thing. This is my light, by the way. Anyway, it's time for Scotch.